Hello, welcome to HallowScreen, the podcast that's only going to be in October because I don't want to do more than what I'm doing in October. This is all about horror movies. Today I have my friend Calvin Welch, who is a filmmaker, director, writer extraordinaire. Last year we filmed a horror, kind of like it was also like a horror movie, right? Horror drama?
Supernatural. Yeah.
Supernatural film. All right, what is your favorite indie horror movie?
So, favorite indie horror movie is actually a movie that the first time I watched it, I hated it. And then I watched it again a few years later at like 3 a.m. and I sensed it on this like really physical level. I don't know. Very few movies have affected me the way this one did, and it's Beyond the Black Rainbow, which is from Panos Cosmatos, who's the same director who did Mandy, which I think a lot more people have probably seen than Beyond the Black Rainbow. But yeah, it's like sci-fi horror and like very minimalist and very little plot, just vibes. But yeah, watching it at 3 a.m., just completely sleep deprived, is the way to go.
I feel like every time I talk to you about horror movies or any new movies you watched, you always tell me like, well, it was at like 4 a.m. and I was like on a bunch of cups of coffee and
It's the best time. I don't know. Everything's just different at like really late at night. So
is there a specific scene from that movie that stands out to you?
there's like a drug trip sequence, which I feel like are usually done very poorly in movies, but this one, it like is very ethereal, and it's still in the same tone, but it like switches to this really blown out black and white high contrast kind of thing, and the music is just huge. And yeah, that's the part that I think always stands out. It's like right in the middle of the movie.
All right, what is your favorite mainstream horror movie?
I might get a bunch of shit for it, but I'm going to say House of Wax from 2005, because when I was growing up, we had like a local movie rental store, and there was always the poster for this movie, like right at the front when you walk in. And I think the poster is amazing, and the poster might be better than the movie, but it's great. And I was never allowed to watch it or anything, and then the movie rental store closed. But it's always, the first thing I remember seeing every time I walked in there, and I always just kind of imagined what the movie was. And I just watched it a few years ago. I'm like, oh, I actually love this, and I feel like it has a huge budget, and they use it for all of these great effects. And I don't know, I just thought it was fun. I don't particularly care about like acting or performances a lot of times when it comes to horror movies. If I have fun with it, I have fun with it. And so I think a lot of the criticism is maybe of like Paris Hilton and acting. And
So there's one when I watched that, like most movies, I watched that way too young. I probably watched it like at 2005 when I was like 11 or 12, whenever it came out, however old I was. And there's one scene where the dude comes out from under the floor or whatever and like cuts the Achilles heel, and it's just like, nope, that's enough for me.
leg horror, like Revenge. Have you seen Revenge?
No, I haven't seen Revenge.
It's I mean, it's a revenge movie, but there's a really grisly glass in the foot
Ugh.
thing. That's like the most grisly I've
Ugh.
seen of that. But
For what it is, it's also like really gory too, especially when like they're peeling the wax off of them and they're like it's just like
right,
scary.
I think it was done well.
I think it was really good. I was really happy that you picked this because it's like not a lot of people would pick this, but I thought it was good. I don't know.
If you're gonna spend that much money, make it fun. Do like huge things like that. I mean, the whole thing melts, like the whole building just melts at the end. Great,
Yeah.
It's great. Anything where something just melts at the end is good.
All right, what is your favorite foreign horror movie?
So I mostly watch foreign horror movies. So it's limitless. I feel like, the Italians always have really great horror movies, like all around. But this is another like offbeat one. It's called Dark Waters from 1993. And it's like this Italian nunsploitation horror, but it's also a Lovecraftian horror. And like the first 20 minutes or so has no dialogue at all. It's just moody, atmospheric. Everything is very, very atmospheric through the whole thing. And it's like got a ton of this gothic religious imagery just throughout the whole thing. I think it's the best Lovecraft style movie ever made. And just, yeah, great vibes. I love stuff that just vibes.
Yeah.
No dialogue, yeah, stuff. But
What's like the synopsis of the whole movie?
I believe it's a woman visiting her sister. It may just be a friend. I don't quite remember. She goes to visit a nun on an island full of nuns, and it's slowly revealed that she's actually from that island, and she's unraveling this large conspiracy, this kind of secret thing happening with all of these nuns around there. So, I guess in short, and then eventually her past is kind of revealed at the end of it.
There's like a whole genre of like horror movies that take place on an island, and it's uncovering some kind of like cult or conspiracy,
Right.
like Shutter Island or what's the Nicolas Cage one? The bees, not the bees.
Oh, Wicker Man.
Wicker Man, like that's on an island, right? All right, what is your favorite horror comedy?
I don't watch a ton of these, so I'm not like super familiar with them, but I liked In Fabric, which was from Peter Strickland. It came out a few years ago, like 2018. And it's like a killer dress movie, which sounds stupid, which I guess horror comedy can be stupid.
I mean, it's funny. I right when you said that, I opened the poster of the movie, and at the very top it says "A Killer Dress."
Oh, nice. But it's also like this homage to giallo movies, the like Italian slashers, and it's very ethereal again, and it's kind of divided into two halves. But what I really like about this movie is that there are these witches that work in a department store, and they all speak in like sales lingo, but like scary sounding sales lingo. So if you watch Seinfeld and you have like the J. Peterman catalog kind of joke where they always go on and on about these stories, it's like that, but a horror movie version for like every conversation. And I just think it's super funny.
What is your favorite black and white horror movie?
Eraserhead.
Was that your drum roll?
Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% expected this from you.
I went back and forth between this and I Walked with a Zombie, which I also really like. But Eraserhead, it's funny how I like discovered this because I had watched like nothing weird. I had grown up on Marvel movies and like Christopher Nolan movies, just anything that would play at the theater where I was at. And then I went to film school, and I think it was like the summer of my freshman year, I had Hulu, and it was free back then, and I had Criterion movies, and they had a Father's Day section. Maybe this wasn't in the summer. I don't know when Father's Day is.
I think that's summer. Yeah, I think it's June.
Right. So it had a Father's Day section, and it had Eraserhead in there, which like looking back is super funny for the programmers to put Eraserhead as a Father's Day movie. But I was like, oh, what's Eraserhead? And I watched it and I was just traumatized, just completely like, what the hell is this? I never want to watch this again. I hate it, blah, blah, blah. And then I was super obsessed with it. And I told everybody I knew, oh, you have to watch Eraserhead. And I watched it, like, I've seen it 20 times probably now. So, yeah, one of my favorite movies of all time, and definitely favorite black and white horror movie.
Do you think it would be, I mean, it'd definitely be different, but do you think it would be better in color if it was?
I don't think so. I think the like contrast and the darkness that's kind of around it is really, it makes it work. There's like things in drawers and these textures that I think are effective because you only kind of see hints of it. And then the way the characters, just because it's on film, everything has to be lit, pretty heavily to see anything. So the characters stand out against the background really nicely. And I just think letting that stuff fall into darkness and exist in shadows is like a large part of why that movie works.
What's your favorite horror sequel?
It is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Because Dennis Hopper is my favorite actor of all time. and it's like Dennis Hopper with a chainsaw, and the ending is kind of just a remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1, and it's like in an underground big thing, and the production design is amazing. Just it's another one of those movies that had a lot more money, and I think they spent it well, and it's fun and just over the top. Great. It's really the texture of it is all what I like about it, with the production design and everything, especially that like final, their lair and everything. I think I personally am not a huge fan of the first one, but I love the second one. So,
Man, we are different people because I liked the first one because of how grounded it is, as far as like, yep, this is just a family that eats people. And that's kind of it. And the second one, it's like, no, they have a whole underground lair. It's wild.
with the production design.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, definitely like when she is being chased underground, I was like, this looks so good. Like everything that's going on.
And that goes the same with House of Wax and Dark Waters. They both have just crazy production design. So I think that's probably the, overarching thing of things I like.
I do think that if Dennis Hopper wasn't in the movie, nothing would change about that movie. I feel like he's there and then he's just chopping stuff up, and
But a movie is better just having Dennis Hopper in it. That's what it is.
I think it's so wild how the modern Texas Chainsaw movies have like, they don't even like touch on the family aspect. It's just the chainsaw guy. I don't know.
Family. That's what it was all about. It's family.
It's all about family. The grandma, the mom in the tower. What? At the end?
Good stuff.
I do love the ending of that movie, the end shot where she has the chainsaw and she's just like going crazy.
Recreating the beginning.
All right, what is your favorite horror franchise?
It's another one where I don't watch a ton of franchise things. So I'll say Nightmare on Elm Street, which I think is a lot of people's favorite ones. Just because I like a lot of the sequels just as much as like the first one. I even like I didn't like Dream Warrior. Everyone loves Dream Warriors, but that was one of the, I think, weaker ones of the sequels for me. But I liked 4 and I liked 5 a lot, just because stuff that goes over the top. The acting gets way worse as they go on. It's just like 4 and 5 is the worst acting, I think, of all of them. But again, sets and the scale of things, they just kind of go over the top. And I think overall, like, the whole franchise is pretty great.
Man, that's another blind spot for me. I feel like I've seen the first one, but I haven't seen any of the others.
That was me until last year, and then I was like, oh, I need to watch all of them. And I didn't watch like the 6th one, so I think that's what it was, the 6th, where it starts on a plane. I watched the first few minutes, and I just never like got to finishing it. So I haven't seen that one. So maybe that one ruins the whole franchise. Who knows?
I did last year or 2 years ago. I watched all of the Friday the 13th movies, and that's fun.
I need to do that. I thought about doing that, but I didn't really like the first one at all. So I haven't invested my time into it.
Each one is just a dip in quality, and it's just none of them are the same, and they get really silly really fast. And
I think the thing missing from modern franchise movies is like the just commitment to doing whatever, to just we spent the money, it's crazy, we're going to space, that's the whatever. If Friday the 13th goes to space, it's like, all right. It's like now I feel like it's too serious. It's too just like, I love like really bad late franchise movies. Just they're scrambling for ideas, trying to survive, like, if they can make one after this, it's like a miracle. And then somehow they do. And it's like even crazier than the one before. I don't know. I think it's bold.
All right. What is your favorite modern horror movie? And this is a movie, I said less than 5 years old.
So favorite modern is definitely Climax from Gaspar Noé. Climax 2018. Think it's amazing dance horror movie. It's just, again, vibes mostly. There's not really much of a plot. It just gets progressively worse and intense, and the choreography is amazing, and it's just raw and I don't know, really simple in its own way, but I think it's great. I've seen it a ton of times. I think maybe 5 times in the past few years, and then same with Mandy. I've seen, which is another modern one. I've seen that just as many times as I've seen Climax. So, yeah.
Yeah, that movie really kicks off in a way like no other movie does.
That opening dance scene alone is just like, it's very minimal camera movements, but then like the ones that are, it helps the choreography. It's like everything, you realize how timed everything is, and just great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I took my friend came to visit me when I was living in Los Angeles, and I took them to the theater to watch it, and they were like, never take me to another movie again. They were just totally traumatized by it. I was like, oh, this is amazing.
That's why I don't go to movies with people. I just go to movies by myself.
That's what I mostly do. But
And it's like, I'm going to go to the movies and watch some weird indie thing, and I have no idea what it's going to be, so let me go alone.
yeah, because then you have to explain it to other people. They're like, oh, why'd you like this?
What I like doing is like going to see a movie on my own, and then and while I'm watching it or when it ends, I think of like, oh man, this person would love it. And then I go watch that movie with that person, and then I just watch their face as they watch it.
Right. Or this person will hate it, and you watch it with them, and it's just fun.
Yeah. There's definitely like, I watched, when I watched The Worst Person in the World, I was like, oh, it's okay, I won't spoil it. But I was like, I know this will make someone cry a lot. So I showed it to them, and I watched them cry.
Wow.
It's perfect.
It's kind of cruel. Yeah.
But in a way, like, I don't know, if I watch a movie and it makes me cry or makes me emotional, it's like, that's a good movie. It's good.
Right.
It's like, not a lot of movies do that, and that's the point. That's why I like horror movies. It's like, I want to be scared, and I want to feel something while watching this movie. And if I'm not scared, then I'm like, whatever. It's not really a good movie. But if something that affects me, I'm like, greatest movie ever.
Right. I also love jump scares for that reason. It's like, if I'm jumping, then the movie's working, right?
Yeah.
People criticize jump scares all the time, but I think they're good.
What is your favorite gory scene?
That comes from this movie called The Strange Color of Your Body's Tears, which is a art house commentary on giallo films. It's just like a blender of genres and just visceral things. And in this scene, there's this constantly repeating moment that happens where a guy hears his like apartment alarm buzzer. He gets out of bed, he looks at it, and then it's him outside buzzing himself in, and then like that version of him comes and invades the house, and then while the other guy escapes, it rings the buzzer, and it just repeats over and over, and it alternates like blue, red, and green, and eventually this like accelerates, and then this guy like crawls out of himself, like bursts out of his own body. It's like his eyes are hollow, and then there's like his other set of eyes are behind it, and it's just this really creative, like gritty, crazy, gory thing. But
And it reminded me of Men. I don't know if you've seen that.
no, I haven't.
Wow. That's what it reminded me of.
They did they're the same people that did Let the Corpses Tan.
Oh, I loved that movie.
You should. Strange Color is all like the horror movie version of what Let the Corpses Tan is to westerns.
Whoa.
So but it's like, super transgressive and experimental and bold. Yeah.
Watched Corpses Tan just on a random day, and just like the style of it was crazy.
Right.
And it was, blew my mind.
I saw it in a theater. I saw it at AFI Fest in 2017, and I sat down. I didn't know anything about it. It was like, oh, a midnight movie. Never seen anything from these people, and sitting in this like nice theater for it, it's just attacks you. It's just like, oh my god, just overwhelming.
This is it. So forget everything you've seen. Forget everything you've said. What is your favorite all-time horror movie?
It is the 1981 version of My Bloody Valentine. I like it a lot because I grew up in this very blue collar town. I grew up in like an oil and gas town, and then that movie all takes place in like a coal mining town. And a lot of it's, I think the characters are fun and they feel like people I know, like that I grew up with. And so, I liked I feel like the horror movies, it's not usually about the characters, but I like the characters a lot. I thought the little romance subplot, the guy leaves his hometown and ends up back there, is great. Because everyone who lives in a home, like small town, feels like. And it takes place on Valentine's Day. And like, what horror movie takes place on Valentine's Day? And it's in a coal mine. I don't know. Great texture. Uh, the They just restored it and added in back like all of the like kills that they took out and like the really gory things, and they finally found all of it and put it back together, and so it looks great, and it's the way it's meant to be.
This is the other movie that I was like, oh man, I haven't seen that, and I watched it like 2 nights ago, and it was a trip because it feels like it wants to be like an American slasher horror movie, but it's so Canadian.
And like a melodrama.
Yeah, just the part where the guy and the girl are like on the beach, and it's just
Right.
and just his accent is just so Canadian, and it's just like it's so good. Yeah,
I heard that too with that the little town they filmed it in, they were so excited to have the movie filmed there that they cleaned up the whole mine. They scrubbed it, and it was like, I guess, an abandoned mine, and they cleaned it, and then they came to film it, and they were like, why is the mine all clean? It's supposed to be dirty, and they had to like re-dirty the whole mine for the movie. But it's just because the town was so happy.
there's a lot of good moments in it. Like the whole time, I'm like, who's the killer? I thought it was really the guy from 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, I'll forget who the killer is. Like the first couple of times I watched it, because I leave pretty big gaps between when I watch movies. So I was like, oh, I forgot until like right at the end. I'm like, oh yeah, it was that guy. I also think there's things that are funny, like the hot dogs at the party. It's like, the piece of that guy is in there, and then they're like still eating these hot dogs.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I love it because there's like the water's not even boiling, right? And then there's already hot dogs in there. Then they pour more hot dogs in there, and then someone immediately reaches in there and puts it and gets it out. It's like didn't even heat up at all.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the ending. It seems like it sets itself up to be like a sequel, and I feel like it's a shame that they never like did another one.
Right. I feel like there was supposed to be one. I think I heard something about that, but yeah. I think the guy just endorsed a novelization of the movie, the director of it. So I don't know.
All right, well, that's it, Calvin. We did it. We know all of your favorite horror movies.
Yeah. I blitzed through here. I mean, I don't know if you're going to have a long enough episode.
No, definitely. What is this, 40 minutes? Yeah, that's long enough. And I'll definitely cut it down. Are there any honorable mentions that you want to throw out?
For a foreign horror movie, there was a movie called Luz, or Luz, just Luz. It's like the German, very minimalist, of like, it almost all takes place in one little room, like a possession movie of this cab driver, and she's reminiscing on her, past in a Catholic school, and all these things. But also really recommend that one, from Tillman Singer, who has another movie coming out soon. Anyways, yeah, gotcha. Luz is great. Suspiria, the original Suspiria, it's really good. A lot of Euro horror. There's another one that's like a really great horror western, is And God Said to Cain, which is Klaus Kinski, and it's pretty quiet, just kind of stalking around this western town. It's like a revenge movie, and there's horror style kills that go on through there. Really good. So yeah, I mean, anything like 70s Euro horror I think is great. 70s, early 80s.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Calvin.
Cool. Thanks for having me on.